crime was being happy. That's all I did. I appreciate you.
Holy shit, Danny.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Market Down podcast, where I, James Gisanti, and my man, the Reverend Nick Cummings, are going to be talking about AEW All Out, the pay-per-view that we thought didn't justify its existence until we actually watched the damn thing and realized how wrong we were and how great the show was. I don't want to say from top to bottom, it was a perfect show, but man, that back half was good enough to warrant the price of admission. And let me tell you, 2 pay-per-views in a row, hard on the old wallet, but it was goddamn worth it because of how good this show was. Nick, I did it for you. You're not muted anymore. Take over, pal.
I know, you hijacked my intro.
You were muted.
I was only slightly muted. It was like 2 seconds.
You've worked in radio long enough to know you never have dead air. There's always talking to be done. And if it can't be you, it's going to be me. And if it's not going to be me, it's going to be the guy joining us in a second, because I'm sure he's going to tell me I'm wrong about everything I said.
Anyway, hello, Dev. We see you there in the chat. Good to see you, buddy. Yeah, dude, this was the pay-per-view that we didn't think we wanted or needed. The one that everybody was so concerned with how they were going to immediately follow up the biggest show they've ever put on with a card that didn't look great. And we were dead fucking wrong. This was
so wrong.
Awesome. And we are going to start in the main event, which saw Orange Cassidy face off against Jon Moxley for the AEW International Championship. This was phenomenal. It was a perfect way to end the show. It was a perfect way to end Orange's story as international champion. There was a part of me that wanted Orange to win, and obviously the result was that Jon Moxley is your new AEW International Champion. Part of me wanted Orange to win and beat this final boss, but I think, Danny, this ends in a perfect spot, and you saw everything Orange had to go through. He ended up losing, but you saw how much he was willing to go through in order to keep this championship. This match told a perfect story. He kicked out of a Death Rider, which I called, and I think was perfect, and holy shit, was he bleeding. But this was phenomenal.
Sometimes wrestling is just so beautiful, and it's just so perfect in a way that only wrestling can truly be perfect. And that's what this match was, to me, at least. And I think my opinion means more than anyone else's, because I feel strongly about it. I have been so enamored with this title reign, this beautiful, beautiful title reign. Jay, I agree with your comment as an overall thing about the pay-per-view, but in terms of this main event, no. This was better than all of All In. I don't know, maybe recency bias. All In was like fucking months ago, like, you know, All Out's the now. But this match, this title reign, this beautiful story that they've been telling with Orange Cassidy has just been my favorite thing in wrestling, at least involving a championship. This is, in my humble and completely correct opinion, the best title reign in wrestling right now. Just came to an end tonight. And it is sad. It is tragic. Tears should and will be shed. But it's also beautiful, and it should be applauded. And there's no better way for it to end. I think that a lot of immature people would say that he should have lost to someone on the way up, and they're just wrong, and they're dumb, and they don't understand things, and I don't have enough energy or time to like explain why they're so dumb and so wrong. But the thing is, the way you cap off great title reign is by having a worthy person dethrone the champion. if you have a, and don't go to bat for whatever names I pull out of my ass right now, but if you put the title on like a Daniel Garcia,
no.
None of this mattered. It was all for nothing. The title was forgotten about in 4 weeks.
There's maybe 4 people in all of professional wrestling that were worthy to take the title off,
and 3 of them are in BCC. Yeah,
I agree. I agree.
Crazy.
I agree. They have done such a great job, and I don't want to cut you off. I want you to get back on the run talking about it. But they have done such a beautiful job of making this title feel important. They have done such a beautiful job of making Orange Cassidy feel important. They've done such a beautiful job of elevating this championship and making it one of the most sought after belts in all of professional wrestling by having him beat not just mid-carders, not just jobbers, but main eventers in the main event of shows, in the opening of shows, on pay-per-view. Everywhere he could defend this belt, Orange Cassidy did, and it elevated him to somebody who had a championship that had a name so bad, they changed it midway through to he main evented a pay-per-view with it. Take a drink, guys, because I'm parched too, because hell yeah, Orange Cassidy. It was beautifully timed. Orange Cassidy delivered from day one of this title reign to the end of the title reign. There was never a point where I thought, you know what, I'm done with it. There were times that I thought, okay, this has to be it. It's over. But there was never a point where I was bored with it. There was never a point where it didn't feel like he should be the champion. And we talked about it. We fantasy booked a little bit in our heads. Who could it be? Maybe Bryan Danielson. Maybe we talked about Moxley at one point or another.
Yeah. I mean, Danielson would have been the only person better than Moxley.
Yeah. The only other 2 people in professional wrestling that I think are worthy of it are Ospreay and maybe Gunther. If he jumped ship. But like nobody else was.
That'd be my favorite match of all time. Gunther versus Orange Cassidy.
I mean, I'd feel bad for Gunther, but like that's how important this became, that you couldn't mess it up with the baton handoff. And you could argue, I agree with you, Danny. It shouldn't have been an up and comer. There's maybe one that could have maybe been okay, and that would have been Takeshita. But truth be told, no, it shouldn't have been. It needed to be someone on his level, and his level kept increasing with every defense.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe in the beginning. Maybe in the beginning it could have been a nobody, it could have been a low guy, it could have been somebody for a cheap pop. But as he elevated, the belt elevated, and the competition elevated. So beautiful work. I think this is a top 5, if not a top 3 title reign of my entire wrestling lifetime.
Yeah, I don't think you're being hyperbolic at all. I love the tone in your voice right there. Super confident and very sure of yourself. And that's why I'm very passionate. That's what I like to hear. I think you put it so well, and that is something I definitely wanted to touch on and get into more about why it was important for not just how long this went on, but for who beat him, because now it goes down in history. Like I said, you put it on Daniel Garcia, even if you put it on Swerve back when we thought it could have been Swerve, that would have been fine. But then we wouldn't be talking about the title now. We wouldn't be talking about this reign the same way. It reached another level that, as good as Swerve is, he could not bring it to at this point in time where the cards are at the moment. There's only, like, I would say Danielson, Moxley. I would accept Claudio too if he wasn't doing all the Ring of Honor stuff. And then, like, honestly, Christian Cage, because basically he can just do what he's doing with the TNT title. It works with either title, but especially if you took it off the Workhorse Cassidy and then he's barely defending it and doing the shit, it works. But like, it's just beautiful. Cassidy has to be the best, like, growth in AEW. It's him or MJF, like, for the homegrown guys. I know Cassidy wrestled for like 9 years before AEW came around, but like, there's a like, the exposure is not the same.
There was
Like-
Orange Cassidy before AEW, and then there was Orange Cassidy after AEW. And that's not a knock on his work previously, but realistically, and let's be fair, did we know who Orange Cassidy was before AEW? Not really. I've been a wrestling fan for 20 something years. I follow the indies. I had heard the name. I can't say I ever watched Orange Cassidy.
You know how I found out
AEW.
about Orange Cassidy is before he showed up in AEW, there was just people being like, I hope Orange Cassidy goes to AEW.
Yes.
I'm like, who is that?
Yes.
Let me look
Yep.
him up. And I was like, I watched this match with Cole Cabana. I was like, oh, this is great. I love this guy. But, and I watched, I remember Priscilla Kelly, I think you wrestled. I was like, oh, this is fucking funny. But what were you going to say, Rob?
I remember when he was going to have that first match against Pac, and everyone's like, wait, can this guy even wrestle? Like, we've never seen him wrestle. Right. And then a bunch of people in the comments were like, oh, he used to do like pretty cool shit as Fire Ant back in the day. I think he'll be fine. And then we see him wrestle, and then everybody just had their minds blown. All the way from that to this, and it's amazing.
And they said that on commentary.
Yeah, it's one of the best stories AEW's ever done. It's up there with, Hangman's journey from the start all the way through him winning the title, and some of the other stuff you mentioned.
It really is, and like they mentioned on commentary, that there's the match that Revolution I believe was in Chicago, because he said like, oh, this is where he wrestled his first match, and he took it to Pac, who was the guy he took the title off of, and now he's here back in Chicago, and it all came full circle. And it's just beautiful to watch this guy who debuted. And if you remember when he debuted, he would just do the kicks, and then like these lower card people would beat him up, or like even the women would like beat him up. And then within like 2 months, he's the most over guy in the roster. He's wrestling Pac. That match is still, and again, they said this in commentary, it's the most viewed match in AEW history. It's over 40 million views on YouTube. That match has more than, sorry to bring him up, but that match has more than fucking CM Punk's return. Like, that's crazy. This guy.
Phil guy.
The
guy. Like Walking Dead, right?
Yeah, the Walking Dead enthusiasts, him and Yvette Nicole Brown, they're always on together, it feels like. But it's so beautiful and it's so impressive that this guy has gone from a joke character to everyone's like, well, this is a funny joke, but how long can it last? To, oh, there's more to it than that, to, oh, this guy is really good, to, oh my God, this guy is legitimately like the best champion on the show. And I think across all of wrestling, and I am very biased there, but I don't think there's been a better title reign in 2023, 2022, 2021 than this. I don't want to hear any shit about Roman. Okay, we're back off the bloodline. The bloodline was good for 8 months.
I'd say Gunther is the closest. Not even that
closest.
Yeah, not that it's really there, but like I'd say closest it's Gunther. And Athena. Athena's Ring of Honor Women's Champion has been on the same level, in my opinion. It's just nobody's watching it. But
yeah, that's the thing. It could be as good, but you got to take in all of this. And that's why Gunther's getting there, because the crowd is so into the Gable feud that like that's what makes it. It's not just having the good matches, it's getting the investment and to get the crowd. Because we haven't talked a fucking second about anything that's happened in this match yet. We are just gushing over how good us getting here was.
And he deserves it. He deserves all this praise.
Like this,
we haven't even said Moxley's name since the start when I introed the match.
It's barely about him, honestly. He played the perfect role. He played his part to perfection. He is the right guy, the second best choice behind Danielson to take the title. And, we didn't even know we were going to have Danielson until yesterday. So, it's understandable why we didn't get that match.
Personally, I think he's a bit of a better choice than Danielson because just the level of violence that Moxley is willing to go to. I think it was the perfect challenge and foil for Orange here. And yeah, he couldn't, overcome this absolute animal, but it worked. Like storyline wise, it worked. So you're right. Mox played his part to perfection. And I'm actually really interested to see where his reign goes, because I'm really hoping he does what Orange did and defends the title almost every week. And it's going It'd be nice seeing him do that again. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Also, in answer to your question, Jay,
fuck yeah,
if
Jay.
this was worth $60. No, it wasn't.
No.
It was worth $49.99.
It wasn't worth that, honestly. It was real. It was not a bad show by any means, but this was not worth buying a second pay-per-view. Because you got to think, was it worth $50? Like, no. Was it worth $100? Because you're not like, there's no one only bought All Out. No one was like, I'm not going to buy All In. I'll just wait for All Out. So it was not worth it. It was not worth the money, but it was a good TV episode with an amazing pay-per-view main event.
I respectfully to that, because yes, amazing pay-per-view main event. The Bryan Danielson Ricky Starks match was incredible.
Great too. Yeah,
I'd say I thought the Kenny Takeshita
those last 5 matches.
I'm sure the tag team match with Claudio and Yuta and Eddie and Shibata, sure, like that was good, not amazing, but Kenny Takeshita was amazing. Bryan Starks was amazing. I enjoyed the women's match a lot. I really enjoyed Ruby and Statlander.
Oh, I did too.
It took a minute. This was,
I think, the best women's pay-per-view match in a long time.
But I agree.
Yeah.
And
which isn't surprising with the two of them.
We got the best chant, and we're going to talk about it. We got the best chant in professional wrestling history tonight. All right, the best series of chants. I don't want to spoil it because the match itself deserves to be spoken about. It's on the same level as Rock vs. Hogan in terms of ring work. So I can't wait to talk about it. You see, I had you in the first half. I did, but I brought it down.
Yeah, no, you did. Look, the thing is, a lot of this show was really good, but because of circumstances beyond its control, you can't look at it without. When did you say times were changing? But
no, I think times
because I'm right.
Jay's actually agreeing with James.
I mean, he was just saying it was a glorified Dynamite, so it's. I guess you've changed his mind, but it suffers from everything around it. If it was standing on its own, it would be a different story. But you can't take away everything around it. You know, the whole reason they're here in Chicago, not being there anymore. You know, it being a week after the biggest show they've ever put on, like this does dampen the show a little bit. And even though a lot of it delivered and some of it over delivered and the crowd over delivered, at least in the first half, they kind of died for a bit after that match you want to talk about so much. But anyway, to rein it back in and to just talk about the match, I loved it. This match just escalated and escalated the violence, and it started off very Cena Lesnar with Moxley hitting back suplexes instead of Germans, and just keep dropping them and making him get up.
Out of Orange.
Yes, and it took a while before Orange got any real offense in. My God, the spots they hit. First of all, Moxley hit a pile driver in like the first 6 minutes of this match. That's pretty quick for a pile driver.
My favorite part about that was wherever Orange's head hit on the mat, there was just a blood splotch just there the rest of the night. It was it was a combination of like sick and absolutely perfect.
Yes, and you know, that was a great near fall to be like, okay, this match is already going into that next gear very early on, and then it just kept escalating. The beach break on the concrete. Oh, I popped so hard for that.
Yep.
Then he drop kicks him into the stairs.
Into the stairs. Yeah.
Yeah. So good. They both did a count out spot where the other person had to get back in for a title match, which is, well, like I liked it because Moxley knew that Cassidy wasn't going to get counted out. He just wanted him to roll back in, knowing that he was just going to get dropped again the second he got back in. But Cassidy wanted Moxley to get counted out because he was fucking exhausted. He's like, I don't care at this point. I will take it. That's why Mox got in at 9 and Cassidy got in at like 6.
The right way to do it versus how last week they did it in the main event at All In which we criticized for it not making sense for the count out. So yeah, much better handling of that here.
And you know, the kick, Orange Cassidy just had maybe, and this is hyperbolic, but I don't care, maybe the best kick out ever, like, of the fucking Death Rider. Moxley hits a Death Rider. This felt like the match was over. And Cassidy, Roman Reigns style, because that's one thing I'll never take away from Roman Reigns, is his ability to fucking have that perfect last second kick out. Cassidy did that, but in an Orange Cassidy way, of not just because there was a great example of this last night on Payback, where like Becky and Trish in the cage match had the weakest kickouts because they were so exhausted. Cassidy did that Roman Reigns timing, but Orange Cassidy style of the lowest effort ever of a kick out. And it was just beautiful. I jumped out of my fucking bed. I got so excited, which wasn't the first time this happened during the match because it happened during the Orange Punch Spear combo. But it was beautiful. Cassidy stood up defiantly, flipped off Moxley, and then Moxley had one more Death Rider. Probably the best one he's hit in AEW since 2019.
Cassidy was vertical.
Yeah.
When he hit that. Like, holy shit.
With the last second slant, too. It didn't look like the stupid version of it where it just looks like a double underhook suplex. Like, it was brutal.
It was almost like a brain buster almost. Like, he fucking dropped him.
Yeah, it was great. Just a beautiful, beautiful match. I loved it. I really did. And it's funny because it's like maybe you could say the strap match was better. Maybe you could say another match was better if you're into lulls. But it just was beautiful. And it's just such a nice way to end. I don't want to say perfect. What a perfect title reign. That I think there was no real misfires here. I'm glad Swerve didn't win it in hindsight and immediately in the moment. I'm glad a fucking loser like Garcia or Yuta didn't win it. Again, no offense to them, but they could not handle this. It needs to go, it has to go on someone who can carry a world title level competitor to carry on what Orange did. Otherwise, the weight would fucking crush them. So it really is beautiful. And now whoever beats Moxley, then you could do someone if you want it. I'm not saying to do it, but if you wanted to have like a Yuta or one of these jabroni mid-carders do it, it's better if they beat Moxley than if they beat Cassidy, because then it's like, oh, you beat John Moxley, face of the fucking company. John Moxley, he's the final boss of AEW. You beat him for the title? Oh shit. So no complaints, no regrets, no nitpicks. I genuinely think this was beautiful. Everything about this, the match, the title reign, the promo, John Moxley's promo on Collision last night, Cassidy's promo at the end of Dynamite. This, for as short as the feud this was, it was fantastic. Peak wrestling. Like Rev said earlier, up there with the Hangman stuff, up there with the MJF stuff. It's just one of the best stories they've ever told. And I think it will stand that test of the time the same way those other two will.
Yeah, I 100% agree. James, if you have anything else on this match?
No, I loved so much about it. I loved seeing how Orange Cassidy's character has grown and evolved so much. I think top 5 spot of the year, maybe even higher overall, was Cassidy. He finally got his hands in his pockets and he starts doing the light kicks, but then he starts wailing on Moxley. He starts beating him down with these Sparta kicks because he is not going to go into the night without a fight. He was going to give everything he had to beat down John Moxley. And I loved it. And even Taz said it as he was doing it. I don't know if this is good. Oh, never mind. He's doing it. He's going for it. I loved it. I loved it because even the people who think they know who Orange Cassidy is, they don't. Because he's not the same person he was last year. Hell, he's not even the same person he was before All In.
So that's a great point, and also Moxley put his hands in his pants first to mock Cassidy. So Cassidy doing it back and then be like, "Oh fuck you! I'm gonna do your thing and kick you hard as fuck in the face." It's such a nice touch. And you saying that kind of gave me a comparison that I didn't realize actually fits so well. Orange Cassidy is actually a lot like Seth Rollins, because Seth Rollins' arsenal, but Seth always changes it up. Like, he's going to do a superplex Falcon Arrow, but then he changes it up. The guy counters it into a roll-up. The person Falcon Arrows him, or he just changes something about the order and the format and mixes other moves into it so that you still know what's coming, but it throws you off. He's like, oh, that was different. That wasn't what because I was like, oh, there was a Falcon Arrow coming, but instead this happened. He always does a little, and that's what Cassidy does, because it's like, you're going to get these spots in the Cassidy's match, but it's like, when does he do it? And he always finds different times to bring it into the match. Even if it's not different ways, doing it at different times still mixes it up enough to really subvert your expectations and to freshen up your moveset so it's not stale. And I think he is the same way. I think Seth is hands down the best of that in WWE. Cassidy might be the best of that in AEW. It's great. And I'm sorry, it's just like, after this, Orange Cassidy's about to get Wardlow. Nah.
Wardlow got Wardlowed while he was champion.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah. Bro, I don't give, you know what? I'm saying it. Cassidy's dethroning MJF. There's no one else left now. It's Cassidy.
I think he's gonna get a shot in the near future. Obviously, I think it would make sense if he took a little time off. But
yeah, he can main event full gear.
He deserves a shot.
I will say it's a very interesting situation they now find themselves with Orange, because at this point, it really only logically makes sense for him to eventually find his way to the World Championship. And they have been very careful with who even gets title shots, let alone is going to be the champion. In the company's history, which we're now 4 years in, we've only had 6 unique champions. We've only had 6 unique champions in the company's history, with only Moxley and Punk being multiple time champions. So while I am 100% willing to wave the orange flag and walk in that parade to get Orange Cassidy a world title shot and a world title reign, is that something we could see Tony actually pulling the trigger on?
Yes. Did you not see that picture of him dressed as Orange Cassidy to take a picture with Orange Cassidy? Yes.
That's true. The last
also,
guy
Tony in his full stats math guy mode literally was like, I'm putting on another Jay Lethal Orange Cassidy match because it drew one of our highest ratings ever. So yeah, he does believe in Orange Cassidy in that way.
I know he believes in Orange Cassidy as a draw, but does he believe in him as world champion? Because, and the only reason I'm kind of being a little bit of a stickler with this point, because again, it's something I would want and it's something I would like to see happen, is when it comes to the world championship, it feels like Tony has a set of standards for what that title holder should be. And I don't know how he views Orange in those confines. Now, God willing, I'm completely wrong. I hope I am. Danny, I'm expecting you to say that I am. But the truth is, I don't know yet. The one thing we have to say that we can really say with Tony, other than the hiccup of a run, but with Moxley and Punk and that little week-long exchange, he has been very, very protective of the world title, as he should be. It's not a title that you should be willy-nilly with. So I am intrigued to see if that's in the cards. I really hope it is. I don't think it should happen within the next, say, 6 months or so, but maybe within the year, I would like to see it.
All into Orange Cassidy wins the title in the main event. Doesn't matter who it's against then. It could be against MJF. It could be against Kenny. It doesn't matter. I mean, if this... they could. I don't know if maybe if Danhausen comes back,
right.
He can.
If they really want him to elevate, if they really want him to elevate another title for them, they'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, the tag titles could use some elevation. They can dethrone FCR.
It's a damn shame that the Acclaim just won the trios titles, because I'd love to see him and the Best Friends have them.
Oh my God! From your lips to God's ears.
Also, can I just say the walkouts before the match were great when you saw all their friends walk out behind them.
Yeah.
Mox had the BCC, which included fucking Danielson, thank God. And Best Friends and Chris Statlander were behind OC. I thought it was great.
I'm going to correct you, but it's not your fault because commentary said it this way. Best Friends and Chris Statlander. It's just the Best Friends. They're all the best friends at this point. Just like they're all also kind of chaos. We don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But
no,
like,
so I just wanted to point out Statlander was there specifically.
Yes, no, absolutely.
But even when they announced them as a trio, they announced them as Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends. So they're kind of, I know it's dumb, yeah. But it's like, I get it because it's like you put Orange and Statlander separately because they were both champs. But like, well, now Statlander's the only champ left in that group. And until Cassidy wins a world title, she will be the only champion in that group because the Best Friends aren't ever going to win titles.
Their title win was the win at Wembley. That was the peak. And I hate saying it.
No, I hate saying it too. Like they're the ones where like I'll be like, bro, they're never gonna win a title, but like I want them to. It's not like I'm not saying it because I'm like, no, it's a bad idea. I'm saying it because they're just not gonna, unfortunately, despite being there from the beginning and having like two of the best matches in the company's history.
Yep.
They're just never gonna get a tag title run, which is wild.
Their title will be when Tony finally lets Chucky T say shit on television.
I don't want to get stuck on that because we're a half hour in and we have a whole show.
Well, I don't want to talk about anything else on the show. I'll probably leave, honestly, so it's fine.
But Nick, what did you think of it before we move on? Give us your thoughts on the match.
I obviously loved it. It was.
Oh, sorry, Nick. I didn't realize you were here. My bad.
It was perfect. I'm exhausted, so I might be a little quiet tonight.
He's still on Vermont time. I don't know what that time difference is, but it's something.
I don't know. I just know that Vermont has a serious beef with Canada about who has the better syrup, and like
didn't have any syrup this weekend.
That feels like.
What are you doing, man?
I wasn't up early enough for breakfast, so
first of all, you can have breakfast.
Breakfast. Yeah, like it doesn't matter what time.
I wasn't up early enough to order breakfast food. Let me put it that way.
That's not true. There's breakfast available at all times. You have breakfast for dinner. That's a thing.
If you could go to McDonald's and have breakfast all day, you could find other restaurants that are.
Also, it's Vermont. They'll put the syrup on anything, not just breakfast foods.
I mean, there's nothing there. Look, the only nitpick I had with this was I wish they stayed with the end longer because I wanted to keep watching Orange as he, was getting his flowers there at the end. I assume they probably had to end it for whatever reason, broadcasting reasons, but I would have loved to see what happens like all the way through him leaving.
I would have loved for him to like get out of the ring and start walking up the ramp and he collapses, but then the Best Friends come out and pick him up and carry him up and they just have this really sweet moment.
Yeah.
Like that would have been really nice.
I would like to address one complaint I have about the match, and that's it. And it's nothing that the match did wrong at all. But how dare AEW's production team miss out on the epic Cassidy kip up after Moxley clotheslined him with like 3 minutes left to go in the match. And it's this epic moment on par with Edge hitting his first spear on Dolph Ziggler that we missed because production was like, let's pan somewhere else.
That was right after the kicks too. He got fucking inside outed and then he kipped up and then got inside outed again.
I need an alternate cut of this. I need to see it, whether it's on social media, whether it's AEW plays it again on TV, or you know what? Maybe they comp me for the next pay-per-view, and that's what the entire show is, just the kip up over and over. You owe me, because how is it that I missed out on it, but 10,000 fans are going to get to say they saw it? How dare you?
If they made a fucking DVD for Orange Cassidy's title run, and it was just his best matches from this run, I would probably buy it.
It would also be all 32 matches.
All right.
Hats off to Orange Cassidy. Like, amazing.
A literal tip of the cap.
Yeah, just unbelievable stuff. Good stuff.
I think we've spent more time on this than the length of the actual match.
Let's find out.
Just about. But can I? Yeah, while James is looking that up, can I just? Because I gotta go to work early tomorrow, so I'm gonna go to bed. But like, I just want to talk about some things I like. Yeah, no, it's gonna be a waste of time. But
oh yeah, we went over the match. The match itself was 19 minutes and 50 seconds.
Can I say that I loved the strap match. So glad Brian's back. This insane motherfucker bleeding 2 minutes into the match
Yep.
Insanely, by the way. Good for Ricky Starks. I am not glad CM Punk is gone. I'm not going to start that conversation right now because you guys had a whole pod about it. And we'll talk about it another day with me there. But this obviously is an improvement on Punk being there. This match was better than it would have been if Punk was in the match. That's just because Brian's just a better wrestler than everybody, not just Punk. I loved the Miro Hobbs match because of the crowd. The match itself was good, but like the crowd made it otherworldly, like legendary. And Omega Takeshita was fantastic as well. And Takeshita winning was a surprise, but not a completely unwelcome one. But even I'll give you this, James. I also I would like to see Kenny do more. But you know, it is what it's good for Takeshita, so I'll take it as is. It's just weird that both the elite matches had the elite lose. In Chicago, a day after some guy got fired, or Sonny Kiss, I guess. But
at least they're consistent because they lost it All In as well, and I'm pretty sure at the no, they won at Blood and Guts, but they just
Hangman won. Hangman won. So
on the pre-show. On the pre-show. If I could see it for free, it doesn't count.
That's true. But anyway, have a good show, you guys. I would not talk a lot about the first two matches and just go straight into the fucking meme match of the...
Danny, before you do go, I just wanted to address one thing because, we did talk about the Punk stuff, but I do want to give Chicago credit. They did not hijack the show for Punk. They proved that they were there for AEW and not to take over, to let people know that CM Punk is from Chicago and they had feelings about it. At one point during the night, they even they did a chant where they kind of mocked Punk.
The Crimea River chant.
The Crimea River chant.
Well, that's because there was a sign in the right off of the camera side, between the commentators and the camera side.
But the fact of the matter is they could have booed that guy. They could have ripped into that guy, but they went with it. And I think this isn't a comment on Punk whatsoever. I am happy to see that even in what would be the most perilous of waters for AEW to deal with this situation, the crowd showed up for the company and the crowd showed up for the wrestlers that were there. And if we're going to talk about, the opposing side to Team Punk, they did it. They were happy to see Kenny Omega. They were happy to see the Bucks, and they were happy for Hangman.
Well, but that was 3 incidents ago. Everyone's over that.
No, of course, but there is still that stigma. Jack Perry, that wouldn't have worked. But I'm just saying, overall, I'm very happy with the crowd tonight, and I'm thankful for the love for AEW. And to me, it showcases, again, without making a comment about the man himself, AEW was fine and good before Punk. It was fine and good with Punk, and I think it's going to be fine and good after Punk. And I think tonight's show was so important to get that point across.
I think that was very well said. But that being said, I wouldn't go back to Chicago until next All Out.
They're
I'm so sick of them getting shows.
They're going to be there in November.
We get one show a year in New York. We're a better crowd. I hope. And fucking, you go there, you burn the market out. Come on, man. But that being said, I'm going to go on one quick mini tangent. Could I get, I'm going to give myself a timer. I'll give myself 2 minutes and 11 seconds starting now. Fuck you, Jack Perry. You worthless piece of shit. You are nothing. You are garbage. Punk was wrong. Punk needed to go, and Punk was the problem. But the fact that it's you were the last person he fought makes me sick to my stomach. You jabroni, you absolute loser. You were dating one of the most attractive people in the company, but I still think you're a virgin, okay? You are so lame and so bad at this. You're the least credible person I've ever seen in my life. Okay, you were a bad heel. You're a bad face. Marco Stunt was a better version of you, and he's the least believable wrestler I've ever seen in my life, besides you. Okay, Luchasaurus is so much better off without you. Him and Christian are the TNT champion, okay? And what the fuck have you done? Won an unrecognized title and immediately lost it.
Oh.
You are absolutely not worth the time. You are not worth Tony Khan paying music rights for 2 different songs for your ass, okay? Which is crazy because the first thing, that's all you ever were was a song and a guy who was friends with a dinosaur. Like, yeah, I would think you were cool if you were friends with a dinosaur, but like you go even a millimeter past the surface under the skin, and what are you? You're nothing. You are a little boy. I would ID you if you came into a bar and I was working at that bar. Even if I wasn't working at that bar, I would ID you because you are 14. You shouldn't even be allowed to wrestle, okay? I feel like -1 in his current age can beat you up, okay? So come be on our podcast. Like, come do an interview with us and we can talk about this. It'll be you, me, and James. We'll keep Rev out of here because he's too neutral and we'll try to keep the peace. Whereas me and James will roll up our sleeves and get done what needs to get done. And maybe Chad can watch, but he won't say too much. I got 7 seconds left. Thank you so much. Follow us on Instagram. Check us out on TikTok, Facebook, all the social medias. And there we go. That's my time. Thank you so much.
Night, Danny.
Good night, Danny. Thank you.
Good night.
All right. Well, now that we're 41 minutes into this show, can we
Did
move
that
on to the
scare
rest
you?
of the card?
Did that scare you as much as it scared me?
No. That
I
virgin
got
line.
scared.
got me.
I peed a little.
All right, let's move on. I guess I'll do a quick recap of 0 Hour. We had the over budget battle royal that Hangman Adam Page ended up winning, where he by dead-eyeing Brian Cage on the apron to get the dub, and then he donated, I think it was $50,000 to a charity, and it was going towards public schools in Chicago, which I thought was pretty cool, especially him being a former teacher.
Does he get a title shot with that win?
I don't know. They never mentioned it, so I don't think so.
Gotcha.
It was just for the charity aspect. We also had Athena, Mercedes Martinez, and Diamante against Hikaru Shida, Willow Nightingale, and Sky Blue. The faces ended up winning this. I really liked it. I hadn't noticed that Athena was playing a little more of a funnier character now, but
she has been transitioning a little bit. I don't want to say to face, but she's warming up a little bit. She's been saving this. I think it's Billy Starks in Ring of Honor.
Yeah,
she came to her aid, and nice evolution for this character.
Yep. And the final match on the pre-show was the Trios Champion match between the Acclaimed, who were accompanied by Dennis Rodman, and Jeff Jarrett and Slapnuts, and obviously the Acclaimed retained, as Aubrey Edwards got distracted by Karen Jarrett again, and Dennis Rodman came into the ring and smashed the guitar over Satnam Singh's head, which was pretty awesome. And then just didn't leave the ring, and he just was there, and the Acclaimed still won. But whatever. And that was fun, and a good first, or I think second defense now for the AEW Trios Champions.
Yes, second.
And Max had a phenomenal rap. So that was the pre-show. So let's move on to the first match of the evening on the main show, which saw Better Than You Bebe defend their Ring of Honor World Tag Team Championships against John Silver and Alex Reynolds of the Dark Order. I was so sports entertained after this match.
This was fun.
Was great. And this right here sold me on this card. I was like, this card is going to be good. Like, it doesn't look great on paper compared to what was last week, but
can I say something real quick about the card?
Sure.
It reminded me of year one AEW.
Yeah.
It reminded me so much of year one AEW. There was talent here that it's like, wow, that's a matchup I wasn't expecting to see. I'm looking forward to it, but I wouldn't have called this for a pay-per-view. But we knew it would be good because of all the talent involved. All In was about, to me, where the company has come from, where the company has gone, and where the company is going. All Out felt like where the company started in a lot of ways. You had Dark Order, you had MJF, you had Kenny Omega on the show. You had Orange Cassidy. You had Jon Moxley. You had so many stalwarts. You had the Young Bucks.
Ricky
Starks. We had Powerhouse Hobbs.
I was about to say Hobbs as well.
Even to an extent, Miro might not be a day 1 guy, but he feels like a day 2 kind of guy, maybe a day 3 kind of guy. But he was there early on. Lots of talent that were there to remind us of the journey AEW has been on. And I'm very grateful that some faces that we don't typically get to see have the spotlight shined on them get that rub tonight, win or lose.
Yeah, like the Danielson Starks match was not a match I knew I needed, and then I watched it and I'm so happy I got it. Absolutely. It was great. But back to this tag title match. I love this. MJF got taken out of the match early because of his neck problems after his match with Adam Cole last week. Alex Reynolds hit him in the neck with a chair while the ref wasn't looking, and he had to be helped to the back. So Cole basically fought a 2-on-1 match against the Beaver Boys for a while, and eventually MJF made his heroic return back down to the ring, powered through his neck problem, hit the kangaroo kick, and the boys hit the double clothesline for the win. Like I said, James, I was so sports entertained. It's a script we've seen before, but for some reason, watching MJF do it just made it so much better.
I know there's a lot of question right now. Is MJF actually a face? Is this all a show? If you don't buy it by now, you're never going to get it. MJF is absolutely a babyface. MJF is becoming the conquering hero babyface, the guy we could root for babyface. And it's a beautiful thing to see. He fought with, I don't want to say with a broken freaking neck, but almost. Cole definitely tried a few times last week. So he really put his all into this, and I love it. And Cole, look, Cole didn't need to wrestle a handicap match, but he's in it. He's in it with MJF right now. So I love that. I respect that about this team. And the Beaver Boys getting a shot. I love them. I miss them. God willing, I really mean it. I really hope they do get an honest to God title run at some point in their AEW careers, whether it's the tag titles or the trios title with Uno. They killed it. I love their tag team finish, which is just like that flurry of offense with the stunner into the German suplex into the pin. I love it. It really does. But it's great stuff. It's great stuff, and they killed it. And obviously, we're going to be talking about, as good as the match was, we're going to be talking about what happened after the match a little bit longer, I think, moving forward because of the ramifications and everything that had to do with it. But excellent match with these guys. And definitely shows that there's a lot of love and respect here because, again, they talked about it on commentary and they made a point of it in the story. Alex Reynolds helped train MJF years ago at Create a Pro Wrestler, and Silver was definitely there in Long Island, doing the reps with him too. So love that these guys who have such a rich history together were able to have a nice pay-per-view match. Nothing crazy, nothing over the top, nothing outlandish, a straightforward wrestling match with a fun little gimmick with MJF having to leave and come back. And then having what was, in my opinion, one of the most fun hot tags I've seen in a while.
Yeah, that's why I was so sports entertained.
Absolutely.
It was a little weird for me in the beginning because I haven't seen Dark Order really wrestle in a minute. I think they've been mostly hanging out on Collision. So
they've been wrestling a lot in Ring of Honor.
And yeah, it's an ROH as well. So I haven't really seen heel Dark Order in a bit outside of like that one bit with Cole Cabana a few weeks ago on BTE. So watching them, be bad guys again, it took me a second, but I was like, oh yeah, this is the Dark Order I remember from back when Mr. Brody Lee was still there. And I like that they've mentioned that where they're like, oh, they got soft. They're tapping back into their roots with, from when Mr. Brody Lee was in charge and, trying to be meaner. And we saw that obviously with the vicious chair shot. Yeah. So I really, really enjoyed everything about this match. Like you said, I want the Beaver Boys to get a title run at some point, but I'm glad they had another really good pay-per-view match, and the people still love that. So, but you're right, James. We do have to talk about what happened after the match because as MJF was being helped to the back after he ended up, winning. Samoa Joe decided to come out a little early for his Ring of Honor World Television Championship match. And in a callback to an old NXT entrance where Samoa Joe pushed a security guard dressed MJF, Joe shoved Max on stage.
Hold on. Did you just say an NXT security guard who was dressed like MJF?
No.
I think you did just say that.
I said a security guard dressed MJF.
Okay, fine. Fair point. My bad.
Anyway, Joe pushed Max and was laughing to himself on the way down to the ring. And Max, so bad neck and all, got super pissed off, went after Joe. Got into the ring, they started shoving each other, and then that turned into blows. And eventually, Joe got a hold of Max's neck with a front choke, and then security spilled out and separated the two. And eventually, Max and Joe went to the back, and then Joe just did one of these as Max was leaving. So, James, this is very interesting. Max tweeted out after, he's like, I'm not the same guy you shoved in Brooklyn, motherfucker. Like, it's on. And it's a little weird, seeing MJF take such offense to this slight, although I guess it is kind of in his character. But he's never really won to fight like this. Now we're seeing a different type of passion from him. And it does, lead to certain implications, like you mentioned earlier, because is Samoa Joe getting a AEW world title shot, especially against a very injured MJF right now?
To an extent, I agree with you. The way he handled it is different than normal. And Sup Navarro, you missed us talking about the main event. An excellent match when you can. Not only go watch the match, but, rewind what we were talking about after the show and hear what we had to say about it. We got very passionate, some of us stripped our clothes, started throwing shoes at birds and stuff. It got weird, but, or maybe that was just Tony Storm. I don't know anymore. But regardless, great stuff. And thank you for being here, man. Always a pleasure to have you.
James, you were saying about Owen was really good, but you were saying about MJF and Samoa Joe.
Well, the way he handled it was a little different than we're used to with MJF. He's usually much more of a plotter, schemer kind of guy when it comes to revenge. The fact of the matter is, it is consistent that MJF's insecurities, MJF's frustrations, and his inability to process somebody disrespecting him in any way is definitely a character trait that is consistent from how he was presented from day one in AEW. It's just now he's feeling a lot more confident. Now he's not so afraid. And you nailed that perfectly. So I'm loving this growth from him. And quite frankly, I know there are some people that are a little confused why we're getting an MJF Samoa Joe program, or potentially a program. But if you've been an internet fan, you've been clamoring for some interaction between these two basically since Joe signed with the company. And facts are facts. Joe has gotten a lot of praise backstage for how he handled himself and how he handled the situation at All In regarding Punk and Perry and that whole situation backstage. So I could see this being a reward for Joe to be able to work a program with the AEW World Champion, to be in a main event program, presumably very soon. And there's very few people I would trust more than Samoa Joe to work a program with your champion and to make them look good while also making you worried about them losing the championship. So I'm very much looking forward to this. Joe is without a doubt probably, I think he's top 5, top 3 cockiest personas in AEW's locker room right now. And I mean this obviously in kayfabe and character. Yeah. So, even after he did it, he had the shit-eating grin on his face walking down the ramp. And then when he was in the ring and he was getting separated, he had a grin on his face because he knows he got one over on the AEW World Champion, and he got under the skin of the AEW World Champion. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, please correct me, this is actually the closest we've got to Joe dealing with the AEW World Championship since he's debuted in the company.
Yeah, I think that is right. So, and that's hype. I love Samoa Joe. He's one of my favorite wrestlers on the planet. So that would be cool. Yeah, MJF versus Joe at Grand Slam would be awesome.
Danny would disagree. Danny did disagree, but I'm for it.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned, James, that in our chat, this would probably be a shorter feud. That I don't think it's going to go that long. So I think Joe's the perfect guy to do that. I think, again, like you said, rewarding him after everything that happened at All In and the way he handled it is a good move. I think Tony would probably get a lot of respect from the locker room for doing such a thing. So I'm here for this feud. Like I said, I love Samoa Joe, and him versus MJF seems really awesome, especially because MJF's got this neck thing. I think it's a very intriguing matchup.
I completely agree.
But let's move into Samoa Joe's actual match, which saw him take on Shane Taylor for the Ring of Honor World Television Championship. This was like the warm-up big meaty men slapping meat match.
Really was. It really was. But I'm not complaining. I'll take as much meat as I can handle. I'll gobble it all up. Give me all that meat. And they gave it to me. I'm not sorry. Don't shame me.
I'm not shaming you. I'm just going to let you know that Danny is going to clip that and put it on Instagram.
I am not worried about it. Give it to me. Give it to me. Daddy's hungry. All right. I want it. Give it to me. Give it all to me. And you know what? The crowd was hungry tonight too. They just didn't chant it during this match. But I will say they kind of hyped it up. This is going to be a quick match. It's not going to, these two, you don't really get long matches from heavyweights. The match went a little bit longer than I was expecting it to, but I'm happy because Shane Taylor is a good talent. He's a strong talent, and I'm glad that he got to perform on such a high level in front of a crowd 10,000 strong at All Out. He's been a Ring of Honor faithful for a long time now. He's not somebody who most large audiences would be familiar with. So I'm glad that he got his shine here. We knew he wasn't going to win. Samoa Joe winning the match with the coquina clutch, making him tap out. And let me say, considering how the rest of the night went, really glad that we actually got a tap out victory in this match. Really glad.
I really like the ending. I like this match because I enjoyed them, throwing a lot of blows. Like, I think they mentioned Taylor boxes a lot, or he was trained in it, and I'm just ignoring him in the chat.
No, he's part of our family.
Still ignoring him, but I liked watching them actually, kind of box it out there for a little bit. So
yeah,
this was a really enjoyable match. I feel like it might get lost in the shuffle of everything else that happened on this card, but I had fun watching this. So
and to go back to one of Eric's earlier comments, but it's dumb because he just lost to Punk. It's why Joe needed a good, strong, dominant-looking win in this match, and he did look dominant. Taylor got his stuff in. That's cool, but Joe was the champion. We weren't afraid of him losing the championship, and it's a good rub as he moves forward to bigger and better.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. Because I thought the loss to Punk was stupid in general, but whatever.
If the loss to Punk,
because it happened twice.
Exactly. The loss to Punk would have been great if he didn't lose in the tournament.
Yeah.
Because what bigger place for Punk to finally beat Samoa Joe than All In? That would have been a great story. But obviously, that even without the backstage nonsense, it didn't go over well because of how it was booked. For a pay-per-view, not that I could say, but I can tell you they will be at Grand Slam, which is as big as a pay-per-view. They treat it like a pay-per-view level event. It's a special episode of Dynamite. That will be at the end of the month in September. We are TBD about our tickets. But we will most likely be going, and we will most likely be providing you content from the show. Their next pay-per-view will be Wrestle Dream in October, I believe October 1st, and that will be in Seattle. And then after that, I believe their next pay-per-view is Full Gear. So we're getting closer to a monthly pay-per-view schedule with AEW.
Yeah, very interesting that they added another one. I kind of liked the 4 a year, but now we're doing All In, we're doing Forbidden Door. Financially,
I like the 4 a year. Financially, I definitely did. But I do think in terms of booking, it's kind of better that we're maybe getting to a more regular pay-per-view monthly schedule, because it's going to make booking for pay-per-views a little bit easier with less drag. It might mean certain episodes aren't going to feel as special anymore. The Grand Slams of the schedule are going to be a little maybe few and far between, but time will tell. It's too early to really judge on that.
Yeah, but I don't know. I kind of liked
Yeah,
it when they had the big show, like kind of in the middle on Dynamite, and then went to the pay-per-view. But it is what it is. All right, let us move on to the next match, which is also a title match, and it was for the TNT Championship as Luchasaurus took on Darby Allin. This match was a lot of fun. Darby was still selling his back from the coffin match last week because dude did a coffin drop onto a fucking coffin. So no wonder his back is hurting. I really like the fact that they said on commentary Darby was in more pain than he has ever been in his entire life, which says a lot. But Christian was great in this. All the shenanigans he was pulling while that person in the front row held the Father of the Year sign behind him, which just chef's kiss good. One of the best crucifix bombs I've ever seen out of Darby in this match. But Darby does eventually end up losing when he goes up to the top rope for a coffin drop on Luchasaurus. But Christian took out Nick Wayne on the outside and was threatening to concerto him. This distracted Darby. Darby ends up getting a tombstone pile driver twice. And then I forget what Luchasaurus hit to end it. I don't remember if it was a choke slam or whatever.
It was he hit 2 tombstones, and then he sort of threw Darby's head, I think, into the corner.
Yeah, he threw him into the turnbuckle, and like he hit his neck and his back and everything. And Darby at that point was just fucking dead. So he ends up losing. After the match, Christian comes in and attempts to concerto Darby while making Nick Wayne watch. But Sean Spears ended up leading a group of wrestlers out from the back in the locker room to come and save Darby, which I thought was
what
a
a
cool
weird
touch.
turn. It was cool, but what a weird turn of events.
Yeah, but I like that it kind of just shows how respected Darby is in the locker room and how much everyone hates Christian.
That's a fair point. That is a fair point.
Or as Nigel calls him, a Christian. But James, one of the gnarliest spots I've ever seen with Darby being put under the steps so that his back is on there, and then Luchasaurus walking up the steps.
So good. It's incredible that all these years of being a wrestling fan, these guys are still finding new and innovative ways to mortify me and to make me just cringe out of my skull. But they do. And it's a credit to Darby Allin for being as creative as he is. And it's a credit to Christian and Luchasaurus for being as evil as they are. So beautiful work all around. Darby is another guy who, as we give a lot of praise to Orange Cassidy, and he deserves every bit of it. But Darby is another guy who has stepped up a big way since day one of the company. And he's definitely, we haven't seen as much change in Darby as we've seen in Orange, but we have seen just as much growth, in my opinion. You know, Darby was the kid who was being mentored by Sting, and now he's mentoring Nick Wayne. That's a nice, adjustment for this character. It's an interesting way to go for somebody, especially who is still so young. So I'm really enjoying his direction. I am interested to see where he goes, because now he's lost 2 major title matches I think, in between 3 pay-per-views. He was in the Fatal 4-Way for the world title, and he lost now for the TNT title against Lucha. So I don't know what is next for him, but I would not say no to a title reign with him and Sting. Just putting that out there. But I'm very excited for this reign of Christian wow, I'm wrong. This reign of Luchasaurus to continue, but wow, Christian got me. He got me, man. I thought it was that.
Together, they're the TNT champion.
Together, they're in the media scrum. Christian came out, and he was the one with the TNT title, so that's pretty great. By the way, I would just like to address something that was said in the media scrum. According to Tony Khan, this pay-per-view is expected to have upwards of, I think, at minimum 80,000 buys, and I think they were saying close to 100,000 buys. That is very impressive for 2 weeks in a row, especially considering All In was hyped to be the much bigger show. So congratulations to AEW if those numbers are true.
And I think they delivered personally.
I do too. I mean, granted, I'm with Tony Khan. I would very much appreciate bundles for these things if possible. But all that said, good job on getting those sells. Good job on getting everything going. See, we don't need the commentary. We need the facts. But according to Meltzer, 100,000, which let's see. But very excited and happy with how this progressed. Damn it, even Navarro sipping the Kool-Aid. I'm kidding. I'm kidding, Navarro. I like Meltzer too. I mean, he's not my go-to. None of these guys are my go-tos. You know, at the end of the day, when you could piece all the news together from some of the more reputable sources, the Meltzers, the SRSs, the
Alvarez,
the Alvarezes, the Chris Jerichos. That's when I get my stories. But good match, fun match. I was expecting, I don't know if it's just me, I was sort of expecting a Nick Wayne turn because
too early.
It is, but I mean, who is this kid other than being Darby's buddy and Buddy Wayne's son? And considering we don't really know who Buddy Wayne was, whatever. But we'll see. But yeah, fun match, and I wonder who the next challenger will be for the TNT title.
I'm sure we'll find out on Collision.
There you go.
Or at least you guys will. I know. I really do need to start watching. Also, you brought up Jericho. This is the first pay-per-view they've had without him on it.
Oh, that's a shame.
Right? No, but I mean, that's nuts.
No, it's definitely a big thing for AEW. They are feeling more and more confident with the talent that they've been cultivating and the talent that's there. I mean, Jericho is there on a regular basis, but this company is proving it's bigger than any one person. It's bigger than the Cody Rhodeses, the CM Punks. It's bigger than the Kenny Omegas. It's bigger than the Chris Jerichos. So I'm very proud of how this company is developing, and great match to really highlight two of AEW's originals.
I love this match. It was really, really good. Or maybe not loved it, but I really liked it. It was really, really good. And Christian is just amazing. But all right, let's move on to the match James really wants to talk about. The big meaty men slapping meat match. Miro, Powerhouse Hobbs. I could talk about the match. It was really good. It was. But no, we got to talk about this crowd.
All right, hold on. Let's see what this was.
How's everybody's father feeling today?
God in heaven. This man knows what makes us. This guy knows how to pop us.
I saw Nyla Rose tweeted out. She walked back past Christian backstage, and he was smiling. So she immediately had to call her father just to make sure he was okay. Like, he's so good. But
so good.
Look, this match was really, really good. Miro versus Hobbs. It was very enjoyable. They gave the people what they wanted, and what they wanted was meat. I don't know how this chant started. As it did, and then it just took off from there. And it was meat forever chants. There was one point where the two guys were lariating each other, and instead of yay boo, they just yelled meat. I think James probably just went to go get a steak. Yes. I mean, that's what this is. It's that. But I mean, the meat forever chant. It was just. I
just wanted on the record.
I can't say enough things about it. It was so fucking fun.
I just wanted on the record that Big E is a former WWE champion. Big E is the longest reigning tag team champion in WWE history. But if all his legacy comes down to is the fact that he introduced us to men slapping meat, I think that's fair. And I think he'd be okay with it.
Yeah.
But
he probably loved this match.
So before I get into how much fun this was, let's talk about it. Let's be real. These were two big men beating the crap out of each other. And they were pounding each other. They were tenderizing each other. They were really getting in there. And quite frankly, we were all better people for having watched it. Hobbs is a talent that is just, we see the potential. This man has been able to get over with some really crappy gimmicks in the past and really crappy associations in the past, but his talent has just been shining through and through. And Miro is another guy who, again, we're all just sort of waiting to see that potential that we've been seeing for years finally just release itself and be allowed to just run wild. And, you know, this match, like I jokingly compared it in our chat to The Rock versus Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania, or Hollywood Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 18. But in a lot of ways, that's true. This was a fine match. This was a good match where these two guys, these two Hosses, these two powerhouses, no pun intended for Hobbs, were just beating the crap out of each other with strikes, with drops, with heavy moves. But the crowd was so into it that it elevated what was a good match into one of the most memorable matches of the night. And God willing, these chants keep going. I was so impressed with these guys. I was even more impressed with the crowd. You and I talked about it a little bit last week, that we were a little disappointed with Wembley, not for their lack of energy, because they were certainly energetic, but more so for the lack of originality for their promos. I'm going to minimize that. Don't worry about that. That was just super distracting, and I think I was getting overwhelmed. But Chicago really brought it tonight with those meat chants, and I hope it's something that continues in the future. I hope it's something that's associated with both of these guys, and I hope it's something that AEW does play into. There isn't a company that offers like basically a Haas division. You know, we see lots of cruiserweight divisions. We see lots of high flying divisions like the X division and Impact. And we see a lot of catering to high flying. Occasionally we will get Haas's, we will get powerhouse matches, but I would love to see AEW, because they have the roster to do it. Between Miro, between Hobbs, between Wardlow, between Brian Cage, between Luchasaurus, between Lance Archer, they have the roster to do it. So I would, Big Bill, I can keep going. So I would love to see it happen. God willing, maybe they jump on it in time, but I would love to see more of these matches. And this crowd made this a spectacle. They made this a spectacle. And I will say, by the end of the match, both men really elevated themselves to what the crowd was chanting for. Hobbs breaking out of the initial game over.
By lifting Miro.
Miro hitting a spine buster of his own on Hobbs. Then Hobbs going for his own game over on Miro, who was able to quickly counter it and then go into another game over and get the win over Powerhouse Hobbs. To further the WrestleMania 18 comparisons to Rock and Hogan, Hobbs then shakes Miro's hand, and I thought that was going to be it. Maybe we were going to see a big meaty tag team moving forward, but that was the
Predator handshake too. They did
Predator handshake. Producer boy put that up for us a second ago. But we instead got Powerhouse Hobbs betraying, I guess it's a betrayal, I don't know, attacking Miro and laying into him, when all of a sudden you've been very hyped about this person, so I'm going to let you take over.
It's Miro's. What's he always go? Hot flexible wife. CJ Perry is officially in All Elite Wrestling,
formerly known as Lana in the WWE. CJ Perry here.
Yep. She comes down as Hobbs is just kicking the ever living shit out of Miro. She comes down with a chair, hits Hobbs in the back. Hobbs obviously shrugs this off, and he is just standing over her, about to kill her, when Miro is able to pick up the chair without Hobbs noticing and just absolutely lays into him with it. It hits him, I think, twice, just completely takes him out. And then we get this moment where we have CJ and Miro, weirdly enough, decides to ignore her, basically. Walks out, staring at her in disbelief. And as he's going up the ramp, he yells that she isn't real, and that I think maybe he tweeted this, but he said that he had forsaken her. And wasn't there.
This has been something that's
part of the Redeemer gimmick.
Yeah, Miro has talked about this in his promos for months now, where basically he has renounced everything. He has renounced his God. He has renounced his hot, flexible wife, CJ Perry. And I I'm excited to see where this goes because, look, I like Miro. I know he's been kind of weirdly like, is it his fault he isn't on TV? Is it somebody else's fault he isn't on TV? I don't know. But I like Miro. I think the guy is a main event talent. His TNT title run was one of the best of the company, and it proved he could be a main eventer who can really go. So I think under the right circumstances, he absolutely could be elevated to a higher spot on the card, and he should be. And I don't want to say time is running out, but he's not as young as he once was. So the sooner the better in my book. And Miro, to go into our comment section, I'm going to go with the YouTube one. I heard people feeling CJ isn't joining Miro alone, and it might be Miro Day, which I think would be teasing what's his name, the vaudevillain.
I know who you're talking about, and I can't remember his name. Is he no longer doing commentary on Impact?
He is, but he's also taking indie dates. He and Simon Gotch. How do I know Simon Gotch's name, but I don't know his name? Sorry for ruining everybody's YouTube algorithms, but they're going to be taking dates as the vaudevillains. In fact, they'll be wrestling the main event at House of Glory next Friday, or 2 Fridays from now. But yeah, so Miro was at his best when he had an entourage. And that, I don't want to say he was at his best in AEW when he had Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford with him, but he started building momentum with those guys. So I think Miro is definitely a talent that works well when he's bouncing off of other people. So whether it's CJ and company or just CJ, I think we're going to be seeing a little bit of a rise in the stock of Miro, and I'm all here for it.
Yeah, me too, because I forgot how much I missed this dude. I know he's been on Collision, and I think I'm gonna have to start watching it just because I miss Miro so much.
Oh no! Now that
he is the man.
Now that Bryan Danielson has basically been confirmed to be a central figure in Collision, I know my Saturdays are going to be taking a hit. But yeah, good match, and I think we've spent more time on it than we should, even though it deserves all the meat.
Also, I just wanted to shout out Hobbs too, because I love Hobbs. I'm really behind him. I like the Book of Hobbs stuff, so I'm glad that they were able to put on a great performance.
I completely agree.
All right, let's move on to the next match, and which was the next in a string of pretty good matches, which was Bryan Danielson against Ricky Starks in the strap match. Ricky came out really hot. He ended up busting open Bryan really before the match even started because he didn't put the strap on yet. And attacked Bryan, got his weight belt, and opened them up with the buckle. Bryan was gushing blood, maybe not as much as Orange. I think Orange, however he got cut, I don't know if he bladed or not. That was deep. But this one was pretty deep as well, and Bryan was bleeding. Ricky dominated the early portion of the match. Bryan eventually did make his comeback. He split Ricky open as well, so a lot of blood. Eventually, Big Bill came in to try to help Ricky out, but Ricky the Dragon Steamboat was on commentary. He came over, actually got a good shot in with Big Bill, and then he was about to get chokeslammed, and Bryan ended up saving him. So eventually, Bryan is able to force Ricky to pass out as he had in the label lock. Ricky refused to tap, and so Bryan took the strap, wrapped it around Ricky's neck, and Ricky then continued to refuse to tap out and literally just passed out. I thought that was an amazing ending, James. It was a perfect ending to this match, which this match was so good. I fucking love Ricky Starks, man. And I know it's Bryan, and I know how much we love him and how great he is and everything. Final Countdown was back. Oh God, I love that song. But I love Ricky Starks, and I'm so happy that he had this great high-profile match. I think, as like Danny said earlier, it was probably better that it was Bryan than Punk because I think it just was a better match because Bryan is objectively a better wrestler, and I'm glad they were able to pivot to something great here for Ricky because he deserves it. And after everything he said on Collision last night, I want him to do more things, more good things.
More good wrestling things.
Yeah. Good lucha things.
I love this match. I was scared going into this match. Bryan Danielson coming out after a long injury with a severely broken arm, and coming out tonight with that arm bandaged, wrapped up, and protected. I was very concerned because Bryan came back. We were expecting him back in October. And due to circumstances, which, hasn't really been covered in wrestling news, Bryan needed to fill a spot. And he filled that spot. He did admirably. Now, I'm going to address Navarro's comment that he heard this was match of the night. It's definitely a contender. I don't know I'd put it as my match of the night, but I adored it regardless. I adored it nonetheless. But it's definitely a top 3 contender for match of the night. I'd say I'd put it between this, Kenny and Takeshita, and obviously the main events between Orange and Moxley. This was a bloody match. Within the first 2 minutes, Bryan got busted open. And man, blood on Bryan is a sight to see. It just makes him look even more vicious, and because he doesn't bleed all the time like certain other BCC members, so it feels a little more special when it happens. Bryan Danielson says Jon Moxley is the best wrestler in the world, and the only argument against that is Orange Cassidy. Great way to put two people over. Bryan Danielson, wow, what a locker room leader. What a guy that, if you're going to depend on a former Ring of Honor talent that isn't Samoa Joe, who else but Bryan Danielson, really? But I digress. This was a bloody, vicious match. These men beat the crap out of each other, using the leather strap to absolutely just knock some sense into one another. I loved it. It made me cringe. It's not the type of match for the squeamish. The welts, I'm sure, are going to be there tomorrow. But both men really delivering, and got to give it to Ricky Starks, like who you said, one of the best talent the company has helped elevate since its inception. And he may not want to be a pillar, but he's definitely part of the foundation that keeps this company going. And Ricky Starks kicking out of a Busaiku knee.
Yep.
Ricky Starks not tapping out to Bryan Danielson. Now, let me say, great for Ricky Starks that he didn't tap out to Bryan Danielson. A little rough for me to accept, considering Bryan Danielson, I'm using the full name because he deserves it after this next feat. Bryan Danielson made Kazuchika Okada tap out with one arm, but he couldn't make Ricky Starks tap out while choking him with a leather strap. Little tough for me to accept, even though I know they're trying to protect Ricky. Main event Ricky, I'm sure they're angling for that sooner than later. Little tough for me to accept that, but I get the intention, and I'm not going to go crazy over it. You know me, I'm okay with people tapping out, especially if it's to someone like Bryan Danielson. So other than that little hiccup, excellent match between these two guys. Bryan didn't take any spots that I felt were overly dangerous or overly concerning, considering his injuries. And Ricky looked like a star going against this guy. The blood, I don't know if you saw the pictures of these two guys after the match covered in blood. Ricky looks like a star. Bryan is Bryan. He's always going to be a star. But Ricky looked like a star. And, losing to someone like Bryan Danielson, and I'm sure he was going to lose to Punk. But losing to a guy like Bryan Danielson does not hurt your street cred. Losing to a guy like Bryan Danielson does not lower you down the card. Losing to a guy like Bryan Danielson should be a badge of honor. So, Ricky Starks, congratulations. You're even more famous now because you wrestled the American Dragon, Bryan Danielson. And I'm proud of the meme I created, guys. Go check it out on Instagram. I did that. I give Danny all the credit in the world. He made it better. Thank you for the caption. And he runs our Instagram and he kills it every day. I was proud of this one. Let me take my win here.
It was a very good meme. And
before Adam Goldberg steals this one too.
Shots fired.
Yeah.
Dude, Ricky is a star. That's why he looks like one. Ricky, man, he's so good. And I want him to be in a better, not in a better position, but he should be one of the top people over on Collision if that's where they're going to keep him. He should be, I wish he had a title again. Like, he should be getting TNT title shot and hopefully a win and a reign in the near future. I would love for him to win the world title. I mean, his program with MJF, I don't remember if that was last year or earlier this year, but that program with MJF was great. Like, he went toe-to-toe with Max on the microphone and in the ring. It was awesome. So
it would be very interesting to see that feud revisited now that we have a babyface MJF and a heel Ricky Starks. Dynamics are switched.
Yeah. And
That was good. That was good.
I am totally here for that. But just give all the things to Ricky. He is the
give
man.
all the things to Ricky.
Yes, give him titles, give him big time, matches, give him big time wins. Fucking kid is a star and should be treated as such.
And maybe give Brian a title too. Just putting that out there. I don't know which title. Like, Moxley has the international. He's not going to go for the world title again. TNT title is held by Christian. But I don't know. Maybe make a title for him. Give him that Texas Chainsaw Massacre one. That's fine. Just let him carry something.
You did it again. You said that Christian's the TNT champ.
He is, damn it. He is.
He's working you, man. But yeah,
injury prone. How is he? He's been injured twice in the company so far. Same thing as Punk, and Punk is a 2-time AEW World Champion. Something that I don't think the person who wrote that comment complained about.
Moving on. No, I love this match. I adored this match. I can't say enough good things about it, honestly. And if I wasn't so friggin' tired, I'd probably keep going. But let's actually move on to Eddie Kingston and Katsuyori Shibata against the Blackpool Combat Club, being represented by Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta. The BCC ended up winning this match. Because freaking Claudio won with an uppercut. I was trying to remember the ending and I couldn't. And I was like, oh yeah, because it was the weirdest fucking ending. He ends up hitting Eddie Kingston after hitting him with a European uppercut. And this was after Eddie, I think, had kicked out of other finishers of his. So it was a little surprising. Shibata obviously looked really good. I really liked Eddie coming out looking like Terry Funk, and he had Claudio Sucks Egg shirt on. After Funk he had a Dusty Sucks Egg shirt back in the day. There were points in this match, obviously, Eddie's anger and hate towards Claudio caught up with him, and as they were facing off, it cost him, and he ended up, getting the shit kicked out of him a few times. This match wasn't as good as a few that came before or after it, but it was a solid match. It did its job, and I think I would have a much higher opinion on it if the ending wasn't so weird, I guess.
So I'm not thrilled with the ending, but I am going to defend one aspect. If you've been watching Claudio's matches lately, whether that's AEW or Ring of Honor, Claudio has been winning matches with different moves. Claudio has been winning matches with the Ricola Bomb. Claudio has been winning matches with the Giant Swing. Claudio's been winning matches with the European Uppercut. There is a precedent of him pinning talent with the European uppercut. I know Nigel said, I've never seen this before, but it is something that has happened. And I believe it's happened on both AEW and Ring of Honor. Definitely on Ring of Honor. Now, say what you will about that. I don't have a problem with him pinning somebody with the European uppercut. The problem I have was the suddenness of it.
Right? It was out of nowhere.
He pinned Eddie Kingston, who, by all accounts, feels like the heir apparent to Claudio's Ring of Honor world title. And he did it with such little fanfare, and he did it so suddenly that I'm to believe that there really is no reason he should defend the title against Eddie. There is a reason that Eddie, when he came out to get Yuta on Wednesday, did walk right by Eddie without confronting him or even making eye contact with him. So I don't know why they did this. I know they needed to protect Shibata because he's the Ring of Honor Pure Champion. That makes total sense. And I am fine, in theory, with Claudio pinning Eddie once again. The problem was how cleanly this was done, how straightforward this was done. And yeah, Eddie kicked out at 4. I think that was a good call by commentary. He kicked out at 4. Maybe have him kick out at 3.1. Maybe have him kick out at 3, but still it counts as a pin. Or maybe, considering the Blackpool Combat Club has no problem cheating, maybe have the Blackpool Combat Club cheat to actually win this match. very interesting choice, in my opinion. I'm very interested to see where they go forward on Dynamite and Ring of Honor with this. But yeah, I did like the aspect of Shibata choking out Yuta, and that's why he couldn't break up the pin fast enough. That was a very nice touch on it. But this did not do Eddie any real favors here, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, especially if they are trying to set him up to beat Claudio for the title. It's very strange that you would have Claudio just beat him cleanly that way. So
Yeah.
I think, had he cheated, it would have been a lot better, and it gives Eddie a reason to continue going after. I mean, Eddie doesn't need a fucking reason to continue going after Claudio, but it gives him, ammunition to work up for another match, being like, yeah, you pinned me, but you clearly cheated. So, give me a match and I'll beat you straight, or, beat me straight up, bitch. Like, something like that. So this is, it's a little weird booking for me, but it is what it is. And hopefully Eddie does end up winning the Ring of Honor title, but we'll see. All right, let us move on to the next match, which is another fucking barn burner. Kenny Omega faced off against Konosuke Takeshita. This match was awesome. I thought Kenny died like 5 different times, especially when he got dropped on his fucking head. Side note, that happened twice tonight. It happened to Darby, too. Both of these guys are lucky as hell.
Yep.
Takeshita eventually won the match after he hit Kenny with like 3 vicious knees, including a last one where he pulled down his knee pad. But James, this was classic best bout machine Kenny Omega, and obviously Takeshita can fucking go, and this led to one of the matches of the night.
Oh, absolutely. This was one of the matches I was most looking forward to coming into the pay-per-view, and it without a doubt delivered, and I'm so grateful that it did. Did Moxley ever get that vacation? It's never coming. It's never coming. He'll vacation. He'll vacation when he's retired. But this match delivered on all fronts. It was stiff. It was nonstop action. They never stopped hitting each other. And these are two talents that have known each other for a very long time. Takeshita was the ace of DDT. Kenny got his start in DDT, and that's where Ibushi got really big before jumping over to New Japan. So
Kenny wore their colors too. The green trunks.
Loved it. It looked good on him. I love Kenny in green. But great match between two talent that have a history, know each other very well, and trust each other well enough to deliver a match like this. I'm not sad. I'm not mad that Takeshita won. I'm just sad that Kenny lost. I am very done with this whole Kenny Omega can't win a singles match without Don Callis story. It's been going on for, to me, what feels like way, way too long. And again, that's just because I'm a gigantic Kenny Omega mark and I want to see Kenny Omega win every match he's in. But I know for a fact that Takeshita is a very important project for him in AEW. And it's been a priority of his to elevate Takeshita for some time. And he's certainly doing that. 2 losses to Takeshita in 1 week is a big way to get a guy over. And yeah, were there some shenanigans at the end with Callis? Sure. But in the end, none of it really resulted in Kenny's loss. He just lost to Takeshita. He got out hit and he got put down. There was no screwdriver. There was nothing. But Kenny is the worst book star in the company. Tell that to Bryan Danielson, and then we'll talk about the worst book star. But I appreciate Kenny's willingness to put people over, but like Brian, I would like to see some wins. Yes, it definitely does suck when he loses, but Kenny looked amazing in this match. V-trigger after V-trigger, Snapdragon after Snapdragon. These guys were laying into one another. And yeah, even though it was mostly a clean loss, there was the Don Callis of it all with that screwdriver trying to stab him with it. He pierced the mat. He drove that thing into the mat.
He let that thing fly.
And then Takeshita almost hit him with it if it wasn't for the referee. So a lot that you could say led to Kenny's loss here. So he's still somewhat protected, but I'm just a-okay with a Kenny Omega win. He's in need of it. It's a shame that they're done with the Blackpool Combat Club because I would love to see Kenny with the international title. But that's okay. I'm willing to see where this goes. I have a sneaking suspicion, and this is just me fantasy booking. I would not be shocked if we get a second Kenny Omega world title reign in the next 12 months.
That'd be awesome. I mean, I love Kenny as champ, so
I think we're going to get the Elite versus the Kingdom with Adam Cole, and I think the title will be involved in that. So we'll see if that, again, that's my fantasy booking. We'll see if I'm just a mark and there's nothing to it, but I do think that's the direction we might be headed. But yep. Yep, I am. But very much love this match. If you are a fan of the New Japan Strong Style, this is the match to watch of the night. If you're a fan of classic Kenny Omega Best Bout Machine cleaner matches, this is the match to watch. And if you're looking to see a young talent get elevated in a convincing way, this is the match to watch. So bravo to both men. I guess bravo to Don Callis as well. But please let Kenny win. Let him win the next match. He needs to. Who else can he lose to?
I'm so happy that Takeshita won. Like, he obviously, like I said, it elevates him perfectly. I'm so pissed off that stupid carny piece of shit Don Callis got to win. I'm so mad. Like, he works me so good, man. He's like the one person in wrestling I like really truly hate.
And that's how you know he's getting the job done.
Yeah, exactly. I thought Kenny died like 4 different times in this match. Like, he got dropped on his head. I thought he broke his nose when he went into the turnbuckle.
Seriously.
Takeshita clipped him on that senton to the outside with the chairs, which was an awesome spot, by the way. Takeshita clipped him in the face with his elbow. Like, I don't know how Kenny's walking away from this one. That was brutal. I mean, it was awesome, but like you said, it was stiff as hell. And a couple of those mistakes there, like, made me nervous.
Yeah,
but, like, it did kind of add to the match, and I did like how you did see Don's influence and his scouting. His scouting influenced the match where you had Takeshita going after certain Omega injuries that he has had in the past. So it was great. I love this match. Kenny, I know he lost, but Kenny's still got it. He's still the best bout machine, and I am interested to see where Kenny goes from here, and I'm interested to see where Takeshita goes from here too, because he's good, man. I've been saying this since he showed up on AEW.
Yep. He's been hot on him for a long time.
He's fucking good. And I don't know where he could get a title, but he definitely needs a feud that elevates him where he can eventually go get a title, and he should win said feud.
Both mid-card titles right now are held by heels, so it's a tough place to be in. But maybe send Takeshita, let him get a Ring of Honor title.
Yep.
Let him
beat Shibata.
It's hard. He's got such a striking style, and the
That's
Pura
true.
title doesn't really lend itself to that. And I don't see Joe dropping it to Takeshita. So it's an interesting position to be in, but they'll navigate it well. They've clearly got a plan for him.
Yeah, and like you said, I think Kenny is involved a lot in probably his booking and like his direction and stuff. So I think he'll be well protected, and he'll not only put on great performances, but I think he'll have good feuds as well.
Can we also just one thing? Can we change the music? I don't like the low. Yeah, I don't like the low hum. It's annoying.
Yeah, I don't think it either. I think like when it's just Don, I'm okay.
It
with
works.
That.
It works. Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes sense that Takeshita would just be using Don's music because he's his family now. But yeah. I agree with you. I wish Takeshita would get his own tune because the low hum there is a little annoying. You can even like play that and then like go into something else if you want, But
that's good. That's good.
Oh God, I love Christian. All right,
and so does Christian. So does Christian.
Yes, nobody loves Christian more than Christian. Let us get to the last match we need to talk about this evening, which saw the Young Bucks and FTR face off against Bullet Club Gold. This match was really, really good. It wasn't, match of the night good, but it was one of those, like, it's going to fly under the radar until you bring it up, and then you're going to be like, oh, yeah, that was a really good fucking match. We had Bullet Club Gold come away with, I'm pulling the Vince McMahon over here in my ear. We had Bullet Club Gold come away with the victory as Jay White was able to hit a Blade Runner seemingly out of nowhere. He wasn't even legal. He hits it onto Cash, and then Nick Jackson is unable to make the save. He was late. He was apologizing after the match. You can see the tension between, the members of FTR and the Young Bucks. As Nick was apologizing, saying he was late and saying it was his bad, Matt was looking at Dax like, yo, what the hell, your boy lost. And then Dax went over to Nick and was like, why didn't you make the save? So definitely still the tension there. But what I really enjoyed about this was when FTR and the Bucks were on the same page. It took them a little while to get there. They never really tagged each other in. They were only tagging in their partners unless, somebody else tagged themselves in for most of it. But we did have a lot of good spots where we saw all four of them working together. We saw them all put in sharpshooters there for a little bit. And then we kind of had I don't want to say a reference, but it felt a lot like when the Revival and DIY were.
Yeah, I got that vibe too. Yeah.
Off against the Authors of Pain in that the three-way tag match. And they were, teaming up with each other to hit each other's finishers. And it was cool watching, Nick hit a Shatter Machine, and then Dax and Matt did the BTE trigger. Or I don't remember if they actually did. Actually, no, I think they did hit it because Dax just
they did.
He looked at his wrist instead of doing the BTE trigger.
Oh my god!
So all of those spots were really cool. But the Bang Bang Gang comes away with not only the win, but I think a pretty big win for them, and I'm happy they got it.
Oh, Bullet Club Gold. Look, in a punkless AEW, Collision needs to be built around someone. I think Jay White is that person. I think Bullet Club Gold is that group to build around. And him and Ricky and Brian and, God willing, Hangman Adam Page, because he needs to go somewhere. But I think this was a fantastic match. I think the right team won because I would always rather see an established team beat a mishmatched team the way we had here. Doesn't matter how good those teams were in the Young Bucks and FTR. So I'm really happy with how this went. One of the Guns got the pin.
Yeah,
you can't beat that. That's fantastic. And AEW is handling these talents very well. I know there was some concern with Jay White as he came in, but I think they've more than made up for it with how he's been treated. That's a very maybe. I would not hate that. I'd be totally fine with it. If I had my way, he would be the Joker to a lot of people's Batman. So we'll see. But to go back to this comment from Producer Boy, I don't want this, but I got Bucks joining the Bang Bang Club vibes. I weirdly did too, but I don't think so. We got to remember who these players are. Kenny and the Bucks are the elite. Kenny and Jay will always be enemies at this point. So I don't see them leaving Kenny for one of his sworn enemies. So we'll see. But yes, I did get that vibe too with how the match was presented and how they acted. But I don't know if I was just looking into things that weren't there. But we'll see. Fun match. Jay White looked great. Juice Robinson is just the gift that keeps on giving.
He is a madman. Like, he's rabid. I love it.
And I'm really glad the Guns have found their footing with these two guys. If you're looking to be piece of shit heels, there are very few people that are better to learn from than these two, except Christian, I suppose. So very excited to see where these five men go, because of course you got to include Cardboard Switch.
The There were mini cardboard switches in the crowd.
we know what sells here at AEW. So great stuff from all these four men. Lots of stuff that felt familiar but was still fresh. And I love the double super kick spot, with Dax and Matt. And just well performed by all four guys. And the Bucks and Kenny losing back-to-back weeks, all in and all out.
Back-to-back matches. They were literally back-to-back matches.
So God bless them for knowing how to put talent over. And as tough as it is, they're doing right by the company. I really like this match. The crowd, very interesting. Very interesting. I think we had Crimea River chant to Seven Nation Army at one point, and I think it was more because of somebody who had a sign in the crowd, but they still did it though.
Yeah, and the reaction was very mixed for the Bucks. I mean, initially I felt like they were getting a little more booed than cheered, and then I felt then it kind of flipped, especially as the match went on. And I think by the end of it, they were pretty much getting cheered. So obviously, Punk will always have his loyalists, and especially in Chicago, but for the most part, I think it
could have gone a lot worse.
Yeah, I think we saw the Elite be cheered. I think a lot of people probably understand that, Punk was, rightfully fired. So I don't think that they're going to keep getting the heat. The Elite is the Bucks, especially that is. I don't think they'll keep getting the heat that they had been in Chicago. And more people will, turn around on them and start cheering them again. When they're supposed to be cheered.
Yeah. Dev, between Reddit and Twitter, there are plenty of places you'll be able to catch a lot of the highlights of this show, and I highly recommend going to find them because lots of highlights to look for tonight. Great show.
Yeah, I would recommend the subreddit Squared Circle. It's my go-to for wrestling news and stuff. So that's my favorite spot to, go look at wrestling online when I'm not talking about it here.
That's impressive. Right. That's impressive. And unfortunately, we will never get Jay White versus CM Punk one-on-one in AEW.
Yeah, that sucks. Oh, well. But
anyway.
Yeah, that was All Out. James, I thought this was a very, very good show. Like I said at the top, we weren't really expecting much because this was coming so quickly off the heels of All In. There was not a lot of build to it because they didn't have time. And I completely skipped the Chris Statlander Ruby Soho match.
Let's talk about it because it deserves to be talked about.
No, it was really good. I literally looked over. I was like, wait, I didn't do the women's match because I don't know how I missed it.
Because you're like Tony Khan.
Well, I guess. But yeah, this match was right after the Miro Powerhouse Hobbs match. So I think the crowd took a minute to get going, and I think the match kind of did too. But towards the end, they started getting really into it, and the women, come on, man, the women started to pick up the pace as well, and it all culminated with them looking really good. Eventually, the match does end when Saraya, who was out there with Ruby, tried to help her cheat, and so she was distracting the referee. Ruby went to get the spray paint can, but Toni Storm was under the ring the whole time, and she came over, took the spray paint can from Ruby, who was just completely and utterly shocked that she did it. That makes sense. I don't know if you saw it, James. Tony said that, Jungle Boy is suspended indefinitely. But Tony just starts spraying spray paint around to see if it works. As she's
Tony Storm, not Tony Khan.
Yes, as she's maniacally laughing. As this happens due to the distraction, Chris Statlander is able to. Oh god, I have so many fucking bugs in my house. Chris Statlander is able to pick up the win with the Sunday Night Fever. And I guess just whatever day of the week it is, it's that Night Fever for the move name. Because on Wednesday it was Wednesday Night Fever. But like I said, James, this took a minute to get going, but it ended up being a very, very good match and 100% worthy of being on this card. And I'm not surprised considering how talented these two women are.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, at this point, is it a shock when Ruby Soho delivers? Is it a surprise when Chris Statlander delivers? No. These women are some of the best women's wrestlers and some of the best wrestlers in the world. And it's a match that I was going to be happy with the winner no matter what, and it was a match that I was going to be sad with the loser no matter what. I very much want to see Ruby get something good because she absolutely deserves it. The fact that she talked about it in the pre-match promo, 13 years in the professional wrestling business and never having won a championship is a crime.
It's
so
insane.
I would very much like to see that change in the coming year. And I'm loving Toni Storm's gimmick. Like producer boy put, Tony's new character is super fun. It really is. It's the first time that I could really recall her having an actual character, not just being Toni Storm. Like there's a gimmick to her and I'm digging it for her. She's running wild with it and she's making it work. She's a little bit crazy. I don't know if I'm supposed to be booing her or cheering her, but she's doing it. So I really want to see where this goes. I'm rooting for her to just take this to the moon. And I'm shocked I'm saying it. I wouldn't mind 3-time champion Toni Storm if she's the one to dethrone Saraya.
I mean, yeah, I feel like that would end up having to be a little bit further
down the
line.
Down the line, yeah.
But yeah, maybe we'll see how she does with the character. In the interim, though, I guess I kind of accidentally said it on Wednesday, but this does kind of feel like the end of the Outcasts.
I feel like we will probably see Ruby and Saraya as a team, like here and there, because AEW does a great job of acknowledging relationships and friendships. You might not be an active team, but when you need that support, that person is going to come out in 6 months' time and be there, as long as there was never a breakup. So I think that's probably going to be the case here. Saraya is going to transition more into singles probably with the women's championship, but she's also going to need backup because she can't wrestle on the weekly basis. So Ruby's probably just going to be in her orbit a lot. But Toni Storm, the group as we know it, definitely not going to continue as it formed and it originated.
Yeah. And I can see, in the short term for Ruby, she probably ends up having a feud with Toni, or at least a match, because Toni just fucked her out of the title. So, and yeah, the AEW women have actually always been pretty good. It's just Tony Khan never puts them on TV.
The correction is they're booked a lot better now.
Yes, that I agree with. When they're actually again put on TV and they're given the time to be booked well. But when Tony books the women well, they deliver. And yes. I think these two women delivered tonight. I guess you could even say all four. But yeah, I'm really happy with how this went. I agree with you about Ruby and Saraya sticking together. This makes a lot of sense. So, and I love Statlander. Jeez, I missed her so much when she was hurt. I'm glad she's back. I'm glad she's getting this run, getting her flowers right now.
Absolutely.
Way to go, Stat. Okay, so that was All Out.
We did it.
I think hang on. Yeah, we're good. As I was saying before, I rudely interrupted myself.
That's sad.
Yeah, this was a show that we weren't sure how it was going to go because, like I said, as I mentioned earlier, it was coming right off the heels of All In. Not a lot of build. They had to do everything really quickly. And I think this was a hell of a pay-per-view. Was it as good as All In? Maybe not, but I was very entertained by everything. I was very sports entertained by quite a few things. And yeah, look, was it annoying to have to spend $50 again after I spent it last week? Yeah, but I think it was worth the $50. And I thought this show over-delivered. And maybe that's just because we had such low expectations. But yeah, I think it over-delivered.
I think so too. I think this is a show that AEW needed, considering all the controversy they had to deal with during the week. I think this is a show that AEW needed to justify having a second pay-per-view a week later. And I think the talent that were booked tonight absolutely proved that this show was worth watching. And and worth enjoying. So very grateful for everyone involved, very grateful for how this show was handled, and very grateful for the talent that absolutely knocked it out of the park tonight. And just one last word. Thank you, Orange Cassidy, for having one of the best title reigns. Sure, we could talk about how he was booked, but it was up to him to deliver, and he delivered week in and week out. And just, to answer Dev's question, what day is the next live stream? There's a possibility of tomorrow. Most likely Wednesday will be the next time you see us. But there's a good chance, Danny might be covering Raw tomorrow night. There's a good chance we might have something on Tuesday. I don't want to tease too much, but I've heard that Tuesdays might be back on the menu, and but definitely Wednesday. And then this week I will not be covering Impact Live. I will not be covering Impact Live on Thursday, but I will be in attendance for Impact 1000 on Saturday. I will have definitely a lot to report on that, and very excited for the 1000th episode of Impact Wrestling.
Yeah. So there you go, Dev. I have to agree with you on what you were saying about them delivering a show after everything after everything that happened. SRS, I think it was him, said the same thing on Twitter. This was the type of night you needed after the weekend that you just had. So I'm glad they were able to deliver. I'm glad this show wasn't hijacked considering where it was. And I'm glad everything, for now seems to be okay.
I completely agree.
I did like the sign. I like the sign at the beginning of the show. It said Tony Khan cured cancer. I mean, we could take,
or Jack Perry did at least.
Look, I mean, we could sit here and take pot shots at Punk, but clearly what was going on with him backstage was, making things a little bit toxic. And having him leave almost felt like a bit of a weight lifted, because we were always trying.
Which is a shame. It is a shame. Yeah.
But it always felt like we were just waiting for the next shoe to drop. And now we don't really have to. Granted, there are reports saying that AEW is expecting a response from CM Punk and that it could get ugly. So we'll see how that goes. But at least on the show, in terms of the show itself, thank you, Dev. We appreciate it. In terms of the show itself, existing without the possibility of something like that happening again, I think is great for AEW as a whole, and I think it's great for us because now we don't have to deal with it.
Yep.
But yeah, that was a good show, and I think this was an okay one. So I would like to thank everybody so much for watching us here at the Market Down Podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe so that you can catch our other live streams like Dev keeps asking. As James said earlier, we might see Danny tomorrow for his Raw Fast Forward. We will definitely be back on Wednesday, and we are pretty much here every Wednesday for AEW Dynamite reviews. James has Gym Pack Zone normally on Thursdays, but as he said, he is covering Impact 1000 this week live on location. And we try to do episodes as often as we can, and usually we have prediction shows before pay-per-views. This week was a little crazy because I was away, but and then we will be live after pay-per-views as well. Also, check us out on social media. You can find all the links in the description below. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Twitter. I thank you for everybody who followed along with me on Twitter tonight during the pay-per-view. I had a lot of fun. And as James said earlier as well, go check out our Instagram. Danny is killing it over there. He does a lot of good work. He makes a lot of good memes. So go throw him some likes and comment, interact with us. We want to talk to you guys as much as possible, even when we're not here on the live stream itself. So James, unless you have anything you'd like to add before we get out of here.
Just gonna say, Dev, if you want back into wrestling, there's no better place than here at the Market Down Podcast. We're going to be watching everything all week, so you might as well be watching it with us. We'll hold your hand and we'll get through all of the craziness of the professional wrestling world together. So thank you for joining us, guys. All out, all in. I don't know which way we're going, but I can tell you it's been a fun ride and it's been a fun week.
I don't even know what day it is.